Hi, ArcFieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday morning, August the 14th. We'll focus in on Tropical Storm Erin. It should become a hurricane probably later in the day on Friday, and likely a major hurricane sometime over the weekend, probably during the middle or latter part of the upcoming weekend. It reaches Category 3 status. There are a couple of reasons why I do believe intensification is on the way. One, it will be moving over increasingly warm waters of the southwestern Atlantic Ocean. Right now, pretty much centered over moderately warm waters here, but temperatures will increase by several degrees in the portion of the Atlantic Ocean that Erin will move over during the next few days. Also, atmospheric conditions will become more and more favorable. Basically, by that I mean less wind shear coming to the environment around Erin over the upcoming weekend. So certainly major hurricane status is on the table. Here is the current location as depicted by NOAA's National Hurricane Center right now. It's right in this area right here. It's relatively unchanged in intensity over the last 2 or 3 days. However, I think it's a little bit more organized this morning. We'll see on a colorized infrared satellite image in a moment here. Definitely a little bit more organized this morning than it was yesterday morning at this time. Still, maximum sustained winds around 50 miles per hour or so, so it has a ways to go before reaching Category 1 hurricane threshold. Now, NOAA's National Hurricane Center is depicting hurricane status right these time frames here, later tomorrow into the day on Saturday. I tend to agree with this overall forecast, and then potentially the M's here represent major hurricane status. That is Category 3 or higher sometime over the upcoming weekend, and I agree with that as well. So basically, I agree with this forecast map by NOAA's National Hurricane Center. They're based in Miami, Florida. Now, late in the weekend, early part of next week, that is when the all-important curve will take place. And you really can't, at least I don't feel totally confident in any forecast of this type until that curve gets underway. That's really kind of a critical time period here. So yes, it looks like it. Odds continue to favor it curving away from the U.S. East Coast, but can't really feel all that comfortable. Nothing is set in stone until that actual curve gets underway. And in this case, it looks like late this week and early part of next week. Well, here's the aforementioned colorized satellite image of this from University of Wisconsin's tropical website known as CIMSS. And here is Erin as we speak early this morning. Again, a little bit more organized in overall structure compared to yesterday morning. Maximum sustained winds may have come up about 5 miles per hour or so from 45 yesterday to 50 this morning. I don't expect much intensification over the next 24 hours or so. We'll talk about the reasons why in a moment, mainly because it continues to move in an atmosphere that has some dry air from the Sahara Desert, and also it's moving over only moderately warm waters right now. But once it gets out into the southwestern Atlantic, those water temperatures rise rather significantly, and wind shear should reduce, which is a favorable factor for intensification. This is the Caribbean Sea right in this area right here, and quite an impressive wave right now right along the Africa west coast, so something we'll probably have to monitor all of next week as well. This system continues to move generally in this fashion right here, west, northwest, and that will continue for at least the next 48 hours or so. Again, that curve more to the northwest, and then the north won't really take place until later this weekend or early next week. Now, one of the nice products from that University of Wisconsin website is a map that features the dry air over the Atlantic Ocean. Basically, this is air that this time of the year comes from the northern part of Africa, the Sahara Desert region of Africa, rides to the west in the trade winds that this time of the year basically flow from east to west. And all the orange on this particular map represent dry air. Basically, you can think of it as dusty air from the northern part of Africa. And that, in general, is an inhibiting factor for tropical storm development or tropical storm intensification. And here is the satellite viewpoint of Erin on this particular colorized map here, and it is in an environment of dry air, and it looks like it will continue to be in that environment with dry air over the next 24 hours or so. Again, reducing the chances for any kind of significant intensification here for the next 24 hours or so. Ultimately, it bypasses that dry air, and not only does it bypass the dry air when it moves into the southwestern Atlantic, but it moves over increasingly warm water. So again, this is the area where rapid intensification is likely to occur, in my opinion. Let's say from Friday night until Sunday night or so. It can go quickly to Category 1 and then all the way to Category 3 or so by the time it reaches this part of the southwestern Atlantic Ocean. Well, sea surface temperatures are certainly an important factor for tropical storm development and tropical storm intensification. They're not the only factor, but they are certainly an important factor. Right now, Erin is right around in this area right here. It's certainly warm. These are in Celsius, 27, 28 degrees. But take a look here as it continues to move to the west-northwest over the next few days. It will move over increasingly warm waters all the way up to the mid to upper 80s when you convert it to Fahrenheit here. Again, this is later Friday night into Sunday night or Monday time frame. It moves out over those very warm waters of the southwestern Atlantic. So that is certainly one factor that favors the idea of intensification. And again, I believe it could be a rapidly intensifying storm over the upcoming week and all the way to Category 1, and then jumping from there maybe to 2 to 3 in a relatively short period of time as it moves over those very, very warm waters of the southwestern Atlantic Ocean. These are actual temperatures, by the way, not anomalies that I often show here in these video discussions. Well, as I just mentioned, sea surface temperatures are certainly an important factor, not the only factor, though, to look at here. First of all, there's wind shear. That the higher the wind shear, the less favorable the atmospheric conditions are for intensification. I do believe the wind shear will actually relax over the upcoming week, and another factor that favors intensification, potentially rapid intensification. Another important area to look at are those 500 millibar height patterns here, the upper level ridges, the upper level troughs, and we'll kind of talk about a couple of key players here that will play an important role in the ultimate path of Erin. All the reds or oranges show higher heights than normal, basically higher pressures than normal in the mid and upper level parts of the atmosphere. The blues represent what we call upper level troughs, lower heights than normal, usually associated with cooler than normal air this time of the year. And I've often said that if there is a strong upper level ridge right in this part of North America, let's say southeastern Canada or the northeastern part of the U.S., that is kind of a red flag to me that tropical systems can undercut that ridge and move from east to west towards the southeastern U.S., towards the Gulf, towards the Bahamas, even the Caribbean Sea. But this is one of the factors we'll look at here over the next several days. Now, we're looking at last night's 0Z run of the GFS, and we'll see what it does with the trough ridge scenario up across southeastern Canada here over the next several days. Here we go into the early part of the upcoming weekend. Here's the reflection, by the way, of Erin at this particular time come Saturday morning. It should be a hurricane by then, probably on the verge of going up to Category 2 or 3 at this particular time. And a ridge pops up over the southeastern part of Canada and into the northeastern part of the U.S. It tends to weaken, though, however, by the latter part of the upcoming weekend. Now, this is by Sunday night. This is a crucial factor here, that ridge weakens. That, in turn, affects the wind flow in the upper part of the atmosphere, allows for the beginning of that curvature of Erin, first to the northwest and ultimately to the north and northeast. We go out a little bit farther in time, and here we have that very important factor here. Strong upper level trough moves into the southeastern part of Canada by the early part of next week. Again, I look for an upper level ridge in this area to be really concerned about the eastern seaboard. Now, things could change. Right now, it looks like this upper level pattern favors a curve away from the U.S. East Coast. One of the things that could cause a change is the speed of this particular storm system. If it tends to slow down, for example, which is certainly cannot be completely ruled out. If it tends to slow down, let's say over the next few days, over the weekend, that could allow for some time for that trough to move on by and the ridge to pop back up again. So that's one of the things that can cause a change in an expectation of an upper level pattern here. Again, if this system were to slow down, yesterday's midday run of the European model actually featured kind of a slowing down, and because of that, a farther west solution here with this system going all the way to the west and impacting the Outer Banks. I think it was an outlier. We'll see if that trend continues today, but I'd still favor a curvature before this system ever reaches the U.S. East Coast. But being several days away, nothing is completely written in stone at this point. Again, for example, if that were to slow down, that trough could move on by. In fact, let's move out a little bit farther in time. Here we go by Tuesday, and it continues to move to the north and east. By the way, a very strong upper level ridge parked over Greenland at this time. And ridge is starting to kind of pop back into the northeastern states here. So again, if this were to slow down, let's say it ended up being only over here by this particular time early next week, that ridge could end up becoming kind of a more important player, increasing the chance potentially of this system moving farther to the west. But for now, it does start that curvature, and by the middle part of next week, this is Wednesday night of next week, it bypasses the East Coast off to the east here and starts to take that turn to the northwest, the north, and ultimately to the northeast out over the open waters of the North Atlantic. But that trough and ridge combination over southeastern Canada and northeastern U.S. certainly will be one of the things that I closely monitor over the next several days. Important factors indeed. Now let's show the surface forecast maps, and both of these are with the North America view. I wanted to get kind of a broader viewpoint. These maps from the Zero-Z GFS, and these maps from tropicaltidbits.com. By the way, last night's run of the European model had the system back to the east, not making its way all the way to the Outer Banks. So that kind of went back into line with most of the other models of a curvature before ever reaching the U.S. eastern seaboard. Here we are beginning the day here on Thursday. We'll kind of move forward here at a decent speed here, and here is Erin at this particular time, north of the islands here by tomorrow night, probably hurricane by this time. Then it moves out over those very, very warm waters of the southwestern Atlantic. You notice here central pressure really dropping, and again, rapid intensification is on the table for this system. It could go quickly from a strong tropical storm to a Category 3 major hurricane here over the upcoming weekend. This is late Sunday night time frame here, and we'll continue to move forward here. And it starts that curve at that time. And look at this, all the way down to 939 millibars at this particular time. That is a strong hurricane indeed, likely a Category 3 or perhaps even a 4 at this particular time. And we know right in this area it's going to be over water temperatures that are some 86, 87 degrees. Very, very supportive of intensification. Again, not the only factor, but wind shear relaxes too. That is another important factor that should allow for rapid intensification. Then we get into the middle part of next week, and it starts that curvature here. It actually starts the curvature during the early part of next week, but to the northwest, and then to the north, and ultimately to the northeast. And this is all due to how those upper level features develop here at this particular time across the eastern part of Canada. Ultimately, this ends up way out over the North Atlantic here, and it actually can contribute to some snowfall over Greenland here by the latter part of next week. Not all that unusual for this time of the year if in fact this continues to move to the north at that particular time here. You could get some snowfall over Iceland or Greenland from the remains of Erin, and we're talking late next week. So still several days away to feel all that comfortable with respect to the system. However, I will say odds continue to favor a curvature before Erin ever reaches the U.S. eastern coastline here, but something we'll monitor here over the next several days. Right now, a tropical storm status should become a hurricane, let's say late tomorrow night, early Friday, and then potentially a major hurricane over the upcoming weekend. That's it for now for ArcFieldWeather.com. This has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.